Hi everybody, this is Clay from Cool Stuff, and today I want to take you through a tour of the Tascam Model 12's menu system. The little screen gives you meters when you first turn it on, and you actually have meters for live input, PC return. So if you're playing from a DAW, your meters for your playback will show here. An MTR multi-track recorder is your SD card. Now, you can only see, there's only enough screen real estate to display your first 8 channels. So how do I get to my other channels? There are function keys for that. So 9 and 12, you'd hit F3. And the function keys are F1, F2, F3, and F4. And the functions will change as you go through the menus. So if I want to go back and look at 1 and 8, I can do that, and so on. Now, how do I get to my settings screen? Well, there's actually another screen in between. You'd have to hit the menu key twice to get into your actual settings, but there's a screen when you first press it that's used to display a lot of information used when you're playing back a song from the SD card. And we'll just start at the top. 4824 tells you your audio quality. 48 kilohertz, 24-bit audio is what it's going to record. Or if you're playing back, that's what the song was recorded at. You have an SD card in place. This is the name of my current song. The song format for the name of the song, when you create one on the SD card, is date and then an underscore and then 0001. The next song will be 0002 for that day that you create, 003, and so on. Create one the next day, and then the date format part will change. FX2 tells me which FX I have set. You can only have one effect out of the 16 effects available active at a time. And any channel that you want to use an effect on will use that. And if I look at the little effect chart, 2 is a hall reverb. Hall reverb 2 is what FX2 is assigned to. And there is a plate right by your FX fader that tells you what each effect is. This is your, if I'm playing back a song, and I have a song loaded right now, so if I push the playback button on the transport, it's incrementing as we go through the song. I have about 5 seconds or 5 beats of silence in there, and then the song, the audio starts. So I'm set for beats and bars on my display, but you can set this for time as well in the settings menu. We'll stop that. And wherever you stop it, it's going to have your bars and beats. If I hit my stop button on the transport, which I'm not sure you can see these, I really had to zoom in for the screen, the settings screen. So I'm not sure you can see the transport controls, but that'll all be covered in other videos. This is really just about the menu. So the only thing you really need to see right now are the function keys and the jog wheel. Okay, so over here I have 120 4/4 is my metronome setting. So obviously you'd want to set that before you record a song. If you're going to use your click track, there's a built-in metronome in the box with this Model 12. So very nice one. You can set it for different sounds, different beats per minute, and different time signatures. So that's 120 beats per minute, 4/4 is what we're set for right now. It'll tell me how much remaining time is there on my SD card. I have 20, now this is a 128 gigabyte SD card, and I did purchase the one of those that they recommended, the cheapest one, which I think is the Kingston one, about $30 for 128 gigabytes. So you can see you're going to have the ability to store quite a bit on here, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds remaining. Right now there's 2 minutes and 6 seconds making up this particular song. Function key 1 right now will take me back to the meter screen. I can also get into a repeat screen if I want to repeat. I'll just show you that. S1, and then you can see there's like a different icon up here that tells you what it's going to repeat, and then off. So S1, I have to look in the manual. I forget. Let me just pause a second and we'll check this out. I don't want to give you wrong information. Okay, so here's how this works. Let's hit repeat so we go back to nothing up there at the top. Okay, so the default way that this song will play is it will play past the end of the song. Even you'll see the bars and beats increment even past the point that anything's been recorded, which is a little weird. Wouldn't it be nice if it stopped at the end of the recorded part of the song? So if you like that, then what you're going to do is you're going to hit repeat, and S1 will play the song till the end of the recorded part and then stop. If you push repeat again, this will repeat song 1 over and over. So when it gets to the end of the recorded, the last point that anything was recorded, it will start the playback of the song again. So great for practicing if you've got one complete song you want to play over and over. Now there is another feature called Vamping in this board, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen it in any other mixer. You can take parts of a song and you can do something similar with it. And you can actually set up 10 sections of one song for vamping. So let's just say it's a particularly difficult, I'm a drummer, drum solo on a Led Zeppelin song that John Bonham was just able to easily, do, and I'm really struggling with it. I can set those sections up that I'm having trouble with and vamp on them, repeat them over and over again, and I can just keep practicing those. And you can, if you have, let's say, several vamp sections in the same song, you can move between those vamp sections using your cursor arrows, your, next and previous arrows right here. Okay, so that's cool. We'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to turn off the, go back to that. What else do you have down here? Well, mark allows you to place marks in the song. For example, I have about 5 seconds of silence, maybe 6 seconds of silence before the song starts playing. So if I go back to the beginning each time, hit play, there's a long wait before I get to that part where the song actually starts playing. So what I can do is I can put a mark right where it starts. Let's see if we get to that point right there. Well, you can see I'm a little early on it, but now I have a mark that I can go back to. So if I want to go a little bit, you could even fast forward in this song if you wanted to using the jog wheel. So you get to some other part in the song and you want to go back to your mark, you can use your arrow key and notice how it goes to mark 1. So I'm right there when I hit play. So I like that. And you can go forward and backwards. If you have additional marks, you can move between them. So I could go, and there's, besides using the jog wheel to move forward, you can also select, trying to remember how to do this. Hang on a second. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So if you hold down your next button, it'll forward a lot faster, and you can put another mark. As long as you're within the boundary of the song, you can put another mark there, and it says mark set 02. So now I could go back with this button to where my song starts. And then I could use my next button to go, and I think I'm past the end of the song there. So like I was saying, it will look like it's playing, but there's nothing recorded there. So I went a little too far when I was forwarding, but marks are pretty cool for doing things like that. All right, so now we're ready to get into the actual setting screen. And this is going to take a little while. There are a lot of options in here. So how do I get there? Well, from this one, we hit menu again, and Song is the first thing. Let's just take a quick look at each one of these before we dig in. Song is where you're going to create new songs or load existing songs. And these are multi-track songs that you've recorded into the Model 12. All right. It could be live recording. It could be you recorded from your DAW. It could be songs that you imported, multi-track songs that you imported using stems. Vamp, remember I just mentioned you can set parts of a song to repeat over and over to practice them, and you can have up to 10 vamp sections in a song. That's how you set that up. So there's a few options in there to get that configured. Click is for your metronome, your built-in metronome. Quite a few settings in there. MTR is for anything to do with your SD recorder, options for your multi-track recorder or SD. MIDI is a pretty simple one. You can basically turn MIDI on and off. It's got 2 MIDI jacks in the back. Mostly MIDI is going to be used for starting a sequencer, a drum machine, so you're in sync with maybe playback on this device if you need that sequencer to also start at the same time. Mixer, there are quite a few options for the mixer. Rather than give you buttons on, they only got so much real estate to put buttons on this thing, so there are some options that are in here that are pretty cool that control the mixer section. Stereo Mix Export allows me to take a multi-track song, like the little piece of the song I just played for you. That's actually a 10-channel song I've got, 10-track song recorded into the SD. What if I want to just play the stereo mix from that and export that and maybe bring that over to a PC after I export it? You do it this way. That's how you get your main mix. Now, it always records a main mix whenever you're recording on tracks 11 and 12. So this is how you get 11 and 12 into a stereo WAV file. And then you can bring it over to your PC. You can convert it to whatever like MP3 or whatever you want to use. SD play is, well, you could play a song that you exported using the stereo mix export. It's now a 2-track left and right, WAV file. But I could also bring songs over. I might have some songs in WAV format on my PC that I want to bring over. I might have, I don't know that there are a lot of formats. Hang on, I'm going to pause again because I want to see just what formats are supported. Okay, it's a good thing that I checked this out because it's a little bit of a limit here on what it will play in SD play. So it'll play, 2-channel WAV files that are in 44.1 or 48 kilohertz, 16 or 24-bit format, or broadcast wave, BWF files, broadcast wave format files, 44.1 or 48 kilohertz, 16 or 24-bit. Okay, and that's all it's going to support with that function. So it's easy enough to convert files anymore. There are a million websites that you can do it for free. How do I get these WAV files in? If I've got a whole bunch of them that I want to maybe practice drums to, or guitar, or whatever your instrument of choice is, or maybe you want to put vocals on, practice your vocals. How do I get just regular songs, two track, left and right, WAV files in those formats? How do I get them into this box? Or how do I take my files that are in here and get them into my PC? Well, if you're connected via USB, the easiest way would be to go into storage mode. It makes this look like a flash drive to the PC. Most of the functions won't work while you're in storage mode. So, you go into storage mode, transfer files to and from this unit, then you come out of storage mode. Now, you could do the same thing by removing the SD card and putting that into your PC. All right. DAW controller. This unit's also a DAW control surface. It's limited a little bit in what you can control. You can control transport functions, play, stop, rewind, move through the file. You can support pan. You can support fader, record arm, and enter record mode. So your transport buttons on the 12 will work: stop, play, and record. Each channel's record arm will record arm the track in the DAW. Your faders, if you move it on the 12, you'll see this on screen fader move. And the only thing I haven't gotten to work is the master fader control. Because you need the main fader on the Model 12 to control what you're monitoring, the level you're hearing when you're monitoring the audio, they map the FX fader for your effects to the master fader in your DAW. That's the only thing I haven't been able to get to work on this unit. I tried a couple things, and with Pro Tools, I could not get the FX fader to control the master fader, but everything else worked. System has a number of options that we'll look at, kind of miscellaneous. They threw a lot of things in there. One of the important things is the ability to initialize, you can initialize this back to factory defaults, but you can also format your SD card. And that is the recommended place that you're going to want to format. Don't use your PC to format it. Format those in the Model 12. In theory, it should work either way, but I have read a lot of posts about people having problems with that. All right, so take a little break, take a deep breath, grab a cup of coffee, because now we're going to dig into the nuts and bolts. All right, so we're back up at the top of the menu, and we're going to just go one by one and drill into each option and talk about the settings. So we'll start with song. When you come into here, it's going to show you it's going to show you the song that's currently selected. So this is what we've been playing back. And I didn't name these. You have to use the jog wheel. It's cumbersome to actually assign a name. And I'm not going to keep that many songs active at a time in my Model 12. I'm going to transfer them over to my PC and bring them into my DAW. So I'm not going to forget what they are. And if I do, I'll just play back a little piece of it and hear what it is, and I'll name it then in my PC. So this is the song. And by the way, this particular song, I shouldn't get flagged by YouTube for copyright infringement. It is the Pro Tools demo song that comes with Pro Tools. And it's called Can't Get Enough. So you can see the name of the song. You can see the size of it, 209 megabytes. And then this little star, and the fact that it's highlighted tells me it's the current song I've got loaded. So I have another song over here that was created, a few days before that. I have another song I just created today, and I can use my jog wheel, just spin my jog wheel, and I can see there's two other songs in there. Now, let's go back up to the currently selected song. And what if I want to know, let's just say I'm not using the date naming format. I want to know what date the song was created. So I can press function key F2 for date, and it'll now display the date that they were created right here. I can also click F3 and I can go back to size. So you basically just go back and forth between date and size. Now, let's just say I want to create a new song. You're going to press F4, and you can see the option that's selected here is the quality, 44.1, 16-bit. I can turn the jog wheel, and I can select whatever. You only have 4 formats it supports. So 41 or 48 kilohertz, 16 or 24-bit. And once you've got that selected, you just click OK, and it will create that song. All right. So, and it also makes that song the current song. So we're basically all set up to record a new song here. What if I didn't really want to do that? Well, I can go back to the song that we had loaded, use your jog wheel to highlight that song, then push the jog wheel down till it clicks, and basically you could say load. You also have information you can go to. And you can basically see the same things we saw on the screen: the date, the quality, and the size of the file. And if there were marks on it, I could clear the marks using this, or I could load this and make this the current song. All right, so our little stars there now. Okay, so that's everything in the first menu for song. We're going to go down to Vamp next. All right, so I'm going to click the jog wheel. Right now, Vamp is, well, this really doesn't tell you whether Vamp is on or off. This is used to turn Vamp off if it was on. And remember what I said about Vamp is you can have up to 10 Vamp sections of one song and repeat those songs. So I've got, well, let's just take a simple example. There's one part that's really tricky in a song. I can't quite nail it on my drums. I want to practice it over and over again. I'll set a Vamp point. So there's a Vamp in point. If you go in here, well, I'm actually going to do a separate video on Vamp because there's a lot to it. So we're going to do a separate video on this, but that's the basic idea. Is I go into the Vamp input output, which allows you to define where you want to start and end a Vamp section. You would use IO edit. Once I have Vamp points, if I ever need to clear them out, I could use this and Vamp play. Once you've got your Vamp point set up, you go into a Vamp play mode, and then you go back to your transport screen, play the song. When it gets to a Vamp point, it will repeat it. So over and over. And you can skip to and from Vamp points if you have multiple Vamp points using the arrows, just like we did with the mark. Once you move to a new Vamp point, it'll start playing that part of the song over and over and over again. Then you can use the arrow to move to the next Vamp point, or go back to a Vamp point using the previous. So that's Vamp. Click is for your metronome that's built in, and there actually is a little light. There's a section on your mixer for metronome. You've got a metronome light in that section. You have a tap button or an on-off button for the metronome. But you've got a bunch of options in here. So let's take a look at what you can change. So the first one is setting, and you can send the click for the metronome out a jack that's built into the back of the unit, which will send an audio click sound out to external gear. So that's pretty cool. Let's just click that and you'll see mode. So I can select, do I want this, well, do I want it off? Do I want to count in and then it goes into record mode? Do I want it to just start the metronome when you record? Do you want the metronome to start when you record and play? All right, so that's cool. And the volume can be set. So that's your click out. Phones, 1, and phones 2. You have 2 phone jacks on the Model 12. So pretty simple here. Do you want it to go to your headphones? Yes or no, on or off? And the volume. The default, I think the default was like 20, so I've actually turned this up to 30. Phones 2, same thing. Do you want it to go to phones 2? Turn that output to on if you do. You can see there's not too much to that. And if you need to change the volume, you can do that here. Let's see what the max is. 50 is the max. That's pretty loud. 30 is loud enough for me. I mean, all of the click sounds, most of them will cut through pretty well, so you don't have to go very loud for this to work. Just make sure it's still the same. So we're not done here. You can do the same thing for the sub out bus. You can do the same thing for your main mix. Aux 1 and aux 2. So a lot of options there. Let's see. Okay, go back. Now under metronome, I can determine, and this is where I was saying I have bars and beats set up on my display. So you can turn that off if you don't like that, if you just want to see time there. Tempo. So What I would suggest is when you first create a song, if you're going to use a click track, come in here, figure out what that beats per minute is, and set that in your time signature. So that's there. And you want count in 4 beats, 2 beats, 4, 1 signature, 2 signature, 4 signature, 2 plus 4, 2 beat. I'm thinking 2 plus 4 is 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't used that yet, but 2 beat, 3 beat, 4 beat, and that's it. So that's cool. And that's it. So really nice that it's got that built in. The next one is MTR. Remember, that's multi-track recorder. That's your SD recorder. And this is another thing. We're going to go into some of this, the auto punch and auto punch pre-roll. We're going to go into in its own video. Punch in and punch out is where you need to correct part of a track on a song. And you're going to set a point where you want to, you can manually punch in. You can just get it record armed on that track that you need to re-record part of. You can start playback, and when you get to that point where you want to punch in, you just hit your record button, record the fix, and then take the record off. Hit the stop button or hit the record button again so it takes it off. So it stops recording. But you also have a thing called auto punch where I can set the point that I want the punch in to occur and the point that I want the punch out to occur, and I can select a pre-roll, which is how many seconds before that punch in point do I want it to play. So when you go into auto punch in, it'll play, let's say, 4 seconds before the punch in part, so you can kind of get your tempo and where you're at in the song, and then boom, it goes into record mode automatically. You record your fix, and then it comes out of record mode automatically. So auto punch is pretty good, but I'm not sure a lot of people will use it. You'll probably bring it into a DAW and fix things that way. All right, so the only thing we want to look at here is track edit. These two things will be in a future video. We'll actually demonstrate how to use that, but track edit. So these are the tracks of the song recorded on the SD. Remember, we're in the MTR menu. So I can clear all the tracks of that song and start again if I want to. I can import tracks. Now I don't have any songs in the music folder, or there's a special folder where you need to put your WAV files. I don't have any, so there's nothing for it to display here, so I get an error. That's something I'm going to show you how to do as well. Track swap. Let's say that I want to move some tracks and free up some space. I'm really not sure where you're going to use this, but you've got the ability to move tracks. I mean, I could just as easily move my cables. So I'm not sure. Maybe if you had some tracks in a DAW that you were going to play back and record using 2 mics live into this unit, you might go, all right, I've got my DAW tracks on 1 through 4. Let me move some things off of that I want to also play back from the SD card, and then I'll record my, so you can do that with this unit. I know that sounds crazy, but I could have 2 tracks on the DAW. I can have 2 tracks on the SD playing back and record 2 new tracks to the SD or the DAW. So there's a lot of flexibility with this unit. So we're not going to move any, but you can see I could say I want to move track 2 to track 5 or 6, something like that. Are you sure? Yes. Well, I'm going to say no, but you have that ability. Normalize. I've not used this, and the reason is I'm always suspicious of normalize. I've tried to use it on PCs before, and it affected the quality of the audio. But what normalize is intended to do is to make the average level of each track the same. So you got a hot track in there, it's going to bring its level down. You got a track that recorded low, it's going to bring its level up. So on average, all the tracks are about the same. Now this box might really do a great job with that, but not having used it, I can't comment on that. Maybe we'll do a separate video on that. And that's it. Well, that's it for MTR. The MIDI is pretty, pretty simple. You basically only have, do you want your MIDI time code on or off, and MIDI clock on or off. So, like I was saying, MIDI would be used simply to synchronize a sequencer, a MIDI sequencer with this. So when you hit play to start playing back your song, it will start the MIDI track playing back from the sequencer, so everything's, in sync. If you tried to do that manually, you'd always be, a fraction of a second too late on one of them. Mixer, quite a few options in here that are cool. MTR USB send point. So MTR is your SD recorder, USB for your connection to a DAW. Let's see what our choices are here. For each channel, 1 through 10, all the channels that I can actually record with, where are we sending the signal from to the MTR or to the USB? So here are your choices. And the default is pre-compressor. So coming right in off of the preamp, by default, that's what's going to get recorded to SD, or that's what's going to get sent to the USB. So it's only going to be affected by your gain control if you are recording live from a microphone or from an instrument. Post compression is, we have our one knob compressor. Do you want that to record to SD or go to the USB, go to your DAW over USB? So that's kind of cool. I don't think the Model 24 can do that. And then you've got, I think the Model 24 is all pre-compressor. And then you've got post EQ. So now it's taking the signal coming in through the gain, that's affected. It's then compressing it. It's then EQing it, and then sending that signal to your SD. So that would actually print, your EQ would print if you want to. Now, most of the times in recording, you don't do that because you want to do that in post. You want to use your DAW and play around with it. If you do this, you're stuck with that. It's really much more difficult to undo the effect of compression and EQing rather than recording dry and using your DAW for compression, EQ, effects, etc. And notice there is no printing of the effects in here. Now, if you go to your main mix, you'll hear them, but on your individual channels that get recorded on the SD card, you won't hear them. But on 11 and 12, those two tracks you really don't have much control over. It's always recording to that. If you're doing any kind of recording to SD, you will hear the effect, the in-box effect. If you're using it, that will print to your SD, but only on your main mix tracks, not on your individual channel tracks. Okay, so exit from that. And so you have those choices for each one of your channels. Now this is cool, phase. If you, and I'm trying to think of a case where you might have this, where a keyboard might be out of phase with a bass guitar and you want to try to fix that, you've got a way to invert the phase of any one of your channels. So I've never had to use something like that in a mixer, but wow, it's got it. And any one of your channels, 1 through 10, you can change that. And just to tell you what that is a synthesizer has some pretty low, deep bass notes it can put out. It also could affect the guitar sound if it's out of phase with it. But basically, if you're 180 degrees out of phase between the keyboard and the bass guitar in your low notes in the same frequency, you're going to start canceling each other out. The bass won't sound as loud. It'll sound really bad, and it can affect keys as well. The keys could affect guitar as well because it's got a lot of frequencies in that range. So you could invert the phase for the keyboard. Okay, gain boost. This is really cool too. Each one of my channels, 1 through 10, has gain boost. Now, I have a gain knob, so this actually is in addition to that. So you can add a 6 dB boost to each channel individually, 12 dB, and that's it. 6 off, 6, and 12. Now, I'll tell you one place where I could use this. It hasn't been a problem with this unit, but I had some Chinese mixers, less than, $300 mixers. And when I tried to record to USB, the volume was very low. It was down there, like the signal to noise. You could, if I amplified it in the DAW, I was bringing up all the noise with it when I amplified. So this would have been great to have in one of those cheap Chinese units. I don't need it here. All my mics record fine, but I definitely could use that on some other. And you might have a particular microphone when you plug it in here, like you're really having to bring the gain knob up farther than you feel you need to. You could go ahead and use this and add some additional boost to it. Okay. Aux 1 send, post fader, or pre-fader. Now, this defaults to pre-fader. And in most cases, people want you set your level with the knob for aux, but you want it to follow the fader for that channel. If I bring up my volume using the fader, I want the amount of signal to increase going out the aux as well, proportionately. So you have to set it for post fader. When you do that, there is a little light on the aux 1 that says post channel 1 through 10. It will come on. All right, so good to know that you've got that. And that is going to affect, aux across the board. Solo mode PFL. This was a tricky one. I'm going to actually have to read this from the manual for you. Hang on a second. All right, so from the manual, so it's talking about the solo buttons, and this option is affecting the solo button on each channel and how it works. So here's what it says. It says solo switches 1 through 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn these switches on to send channel signals to the solo left-right bus. And of course, that's what, solo button does. So you can adjust your level for that channel. When these switches are on, the sound of their channels can be heard through the solo left-right bus with headphones. Yes, that's always how things work. Here's the important paragraph. When the solo mode screen setting is in place solo, the signals of channels that are not on will be muted. See setting the solo functions. Okay, that's the way solo's always worked in every mixer I've ever used. So yeah, you push the solo button, you don't hear the other channels while you are adjusting that one channel that has solo on. Now, I guess there's some places where you might want to use that. The band is playing currently. They're doing their song that you want to, get ready to record. And as they're playing it, you want to solo one channel just to check its levels and listen to it with your headphones on. So the rest of the band doesn't need to stop. Most of the time when I use solo, it's before they start playing and I'm, it's sound check. I'm doing one instrument at a time, getting its levels. And after that, I really don't need to go back and check that. But if you, if you want it, there it is. So I would typically use in place solo. That's typically what I would use. Okay, now you have an option for phones, main, select, post. Okay, so your headphones main mix can be pre-fader or post-fader. I basically want it post fader. I want to hear the effect of the main mix fader. All right. And that's it for that one. We talked about stereo mix export. I have my demo song in there, the Pro Tools demo song, Can't Get Enough. I just played a little tiny bit for you in the beginning. I can export this as the main mix. I export the main mix, that track 11 and 12 that it always creates. So I can say yes, and it will export that. And it's exporting it as a 2-track WAV file, the main mix. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's get back there. Now, notice too that this only affects the current song. So it's only the one song that you've got active. Now, SD Play, as I mentioned, can play certain WAV files. Now, I should have one in there now because I just did an export in the proper format for SD Play. So if I want to play that main mix export, I should see it in here. And it's telling you, I'm going to play this on channels 9 and 10. Okay, push down with the multi-jog wheel. And if I hit play, it'll start playing it right now. And I don't have, let's see, MTR. Just checking to see. There we go. Yeah, it's actually playing it. Okay. All right. So just to underscore, let's get back into exit. Just to underscore the difference here, when I was playing that song to begin with, not to begin with because we're only covering, I've done some other videos recently where I played that song as the 10 channels, as those 10 channels have been recorded on the SD, I'm playing all 10 channels back. Here I've exported the main mix, and that's what I just played. Just left and right of that main mix output. And if I had added any effects using the inboard effects, they would have printed to that. I don't need to do that because they were already there in the DAW, but just so you know that effects do go to main mix, though they don't go to individual channel track recordings. Let's see, SD Play, storage. Okay, we did talk about this. There's really not much to show other than yes or no. Do you want to go into storage mode? If I say yes, it's now connected looking like a flash drive to my PC. And I'll try to include a little screenshot of that on this video as I get time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit exit, go out of storage mode. And during that time while I was in storage mode, I could have transferred files to and from the PC easily. It will show up just like a USB flash drive when you do that. Okay, back into menu, DAW controller. Okay. We're going to do a separate video on this, but this would be used to go into DAW controller mode, which allows you to use the Model 12 as a DAW control surface. So if you want to be able to control your on-screen faders with the faders of the Model 12, the transport controls, the pan left and right, several other things, not a lot of stuff, but a couple of other things will work. You go into DAW control mode. Now, most of the other functions aren't going to work. It's in a special mode then, and it's just going to control your DAW. But you can still hear, if you play the song that's in the DAW, it's going to still come through the Tascam, and you can, monitor it audibly using the Model 12. So you've got a couple different settings here for the DAW that you want to connect to. So you got MCU, HUI, HUI, which is a Mackie standard. You can use that for Pro Tools. That's what I tested. I don't have Cubase, but you can see MCU Cubase, MCU Cakewalk, MCU Logic, MCU DP, Reaper, Studio One. I do have Studio One, so I could test that out later if I need to, but I do most of my work in Pro Tools. So what happens is I don't have Pro Tools running right now, and there is some configuration you do in Pro Tools. And we're going to do a separate video on that. But basically you come into this screen and you can see with the solo, if you solo any channels, you'll see those, show as being soloed. I don't have Pro Tools running right now, so you can't see it change. But then you can also control. We've got 10 sliders, faders here. We've got 10, channels. So I can only see the first 8 here, but you've got an arrow that you can use to move, and this will actually change what you've got control of in Pro Tools as you move it, and so that's pretty cool. So you can move 8 at a time, control my first 8 faders, control my next 8 faders, and so on. So anyway, we're going to do a separate video on that, so we're not going to dwell on it. But yep, and you want to go out of DAW control mode? Yes. And we're back into regular mode now. You can use it as a mixer. Once again, system is the last. I know this is a long video, but there's a lot to cover here. System is your last menu choice. Information. Oops, let's go up to the top. Information will tell you the total size of your SD card, how much is used and how much is remaining. That's simple. Date and time, you can set your date and time here. Song format, the song name format can be changed here. So your choices are date or word. I haven't set it for word, but you're probably then forced to use the jog wheel to select each letter. It's cumbersome. I would stay with date. Just keep it simple. Rename it later in your PC. Display format, so I can change my contrast and dimmer, how dim it would go in I guess power save mode. Key function, your F4 can be changed. Its default is mark, but you could also turn your click on and off with that. Foot switch. And I'm going to I don't know if I can get in here and show you this foot switch. It'll probably be out of focus, but yeah, it's way big and out of focus. So this is the foot switch that I bought at Sonic Cake. 20, I don't know, like under 30 bucks on Amazon. And it gives you, these are momentary connections. These are not latching connections. So don't buy one that latches. It should be momentary connections. And it comes with the cable and it works out of the box. So you have 2 foot switch functions. So make sure I just moved something. I want to make sure I didn't mess it up here. Let's get back up. This stand has a tendency to drift a little bit. So hopefully we didn't lose anything. So here for foot switch 1 and 2, you got the same options available. So if I push the jog wheel, you can see mode, off, or play pause, punch in and out, your effects, mute, record stop, marker, mark skip, so you go to the next marker, song increment. So if you're playing back 2 channel WAV files, you could go to the next song. I believe that's what that does. Tap. So tap would be you could use this to tap into the metronome. And then you could use it to turn vamp on and off, or to set the input and output points for vamping. So pretty good, a lot of choices. And then sometimes you have to change the polarity. I've got, here are your choices. Polarity normally open. And let's see, how do we change that? Yeah, so you got your normally closed. I'm just turning the jog wheel. I'm not pressing it. Normally open, normally closed. So you can change that. And sometimes the polarity can be changed using the foot switch. My foot switch doesn't allow you to change polarity. I'd have to do it here in the box if it was an issue. But this Sonic Cake worked right out of the box. USB audio. So your choice for this first one is stereo or multi-track input. So working with the DAW, you don't want just a stereo mix to go to the PC. You want multi-input. So make sure you select that. And then when a DAW plays back to an audio interface, the default is channel 1 and 2 that it plays back to. So channel 1 and 2 on my board, I'd have to, bring up the fader for that and listen to it. And if you don't like it on channel 1 and 2, you have a couple of choices. So if I press down on the jog wheel, I could redirect that to channel 9 and 10, which is a stereo channel. I might have my microphones in 1 and 2 and want to use that, and I'm playing back from the DAW, and I just want it to come in on channel 9 and 10. But that's still, like maybe you got keyboards plugged into channel 9 and 10, or you have a mic in channel 9, so you can make it go to main mix as well. So that's nice to have those options. I don't think the 24 had this, the Model 24. I think I wished it had this, but it didn't. At least I didn't see it. Output delay. If you are trying to work with a video sometimes takes longer to display than audio takes to play back. So you could find that your audio is slightly out of sync with your video. It's ahead of it. So you can introduce output delays. All right. And you can, turn it on and off, main output and delay time. And that's in milliseconds. Yep, milliseconds. So many options. Output pad. Your main mix output can be padded, and your sub out can be padded in 1 dB increments. And let's see what we can go to. -40. So if your main out is too hot for some reason, you can pad it. You could also bring down your fader, but I guess, there might be times when you need this. I'm laughing, but there's probably some really important thing that people do and need this sometimes. I don't know what it is, but okay. So sub out could do the same thing. And initialize is going to be used to initialize your Model 12 to factory setup. I don't know what might happen, but you get to a point where you changed an option, you don't know what it is, and now the whole unit works weird. So you can reset it to factory default by pressing yes. And I think this is the last one, yep. Media format. So I've got a new SD card, I pop it in the slot. I can either do a quick format, or erase is confusing. It makes it sound like it's going to erase data that's on there. Well, it is going to do that, but it's doing a long format. It's not just erasing any files that's on there. It's doing, if you're familiar with PC, you've got quick format on PC and you've got a long format. And the long format writes a bit to every word that, is on the media. So that's what erase is long format. Quick format should be fine in most cases. All right. So that's it, folks. I know it's a long video. I hope you found it informative. And the one thing I'll say is I'm very impressed that this unit has so much. It's the cheapest model unit that Tascam has in its model line, but it's got more features than the bigger units. The 24 I've seen, the 2400 I've seen, I haven't had a 16, but I think a 16 is closer to the 24 in its feature set. And this just has, especially in the menu, has so many more options. So thanks for watching, and hope you found this informative.